Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's Family Connection workshop entitled 3E Series Enlist. My name is Leslie Riccio, and I'm a family outreach representative with the Office of Family and Community Engagement. This workshop will be the last of a three-part series focusing on options for students after high school. Tonight's session will provide useful information for students wishing to enter the military. Military representatives from all branches will share information about how to be best prepared to enlist in the military after graduating high school. At this time, I would like to turn the session over to Annie Chowns, Instructional Specialist for School Counselors in the Office of Student Support Services, so she can introduce our military representatives and facilitate the question and answer session. Mrs. Chowns?
Thank you, Mrs. Riccio. I would also like to thank everyone for attending tonight's session. At this time, let's meet this evening's panelists. Staff Sergeant Kyle Borowski of the U.S. Air Force, Staff Sergeant Dana Drake of the Army National Guard, Petty Officer Vernon Chavez of the U.S. Coast Guard, Staff Sergeant Tori Fowler of the U.S. Marines, and Petty Officer Pamela Surtee of the U.S. Navy. We appreciate you being with us this evening. At this time, I will ask each panelist to share why students should enlist in their respective branch. Staff Sergeant Borowski.
Thanks, Annie. Good evening, everybody. First off, I like to say the DoD benefits are branch-wide. So I wouldn't say join any particular branch just because of DoD benefits, because you're going to get that with every branch. Each individual branch is going to be kind of specific to their own, but I kind of challenge you to where if the Air Force is in your future, to where if you want to challenge yourself and kind of gain some, leadership or kind of management skills a lot sooner in your career, we kind of push that on everybody a lot earlier in their careers than maybe some of the other branches. I'll also say if you're kind of interested in anything aircraft related, that's kind of the bulk of our jobs, or kind of related to aircraft, but also if you kind of have that drive and kind of want to make the place a better situation than it was before you came in. So I would say if you want to challenge yourself, travel, then the Air Force might be, something that you might want to consider.
Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Drake.
Yes, appreciate you allowing us to come and speak. I definitely would like to piggyback off of that and say, really, no branch is any other better than any other branch. I think the question that you need to ask yourself is, what branch of service best benefits what you are trying to achieve for your future? And if you're looking to go to college, if you're looking to join the workforce, you're looking just for part-time income, the National Guard definitely encompasses all of those at the same time and allows you to be a full-time student pursuing your education. So once again, I just think that you need to ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve and what can help you achieve your goals? That would be my answer.
Thank you, sir. Petty Officer Chavez.
Yeah, I would say before you go into a recruiting office, you need to do your homework. You need to go to all the websites and really find out what branch better fits you. The Coast Guard, if you are looking, for me, it was between the Air Force and the Coast Guard. That was my last two. I made a pros and cons list. I was wanting to stay in the United States, and the Coast Guard, you're always going to be stationed in the United States. For us, overseas assignments is considered Hawaii and Alaska, and both of those are still in the States. So if you're looking to stay in the States or always be around a beach, coast, the Coast Guard might be for you.
Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Fowler.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, like the gentleman already said, all of our branches offer the same tangible items, those intangibles, what wakes you up, what drives you, what makes you passionate about life. That's what you have to look forward to as you're researching all these branches. In the Marine Corps, those intangible traits we hold dear, and we'll ensure that you are ready for the rest of your life, because at the end of the day, we want you to be a better product as you go back into the civilian life anyway. It's not just about your military service.
Thank you very much. And Petty Officer Surtee.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. I think it goes without saying, most of the branches, as far as like benefits go, it's more or less kind of the same. But as far as like what differentiates us from the rest of the branches, I would say that one, I can guarantee that you can choose a rate, which a rate meaning a job, essentially. So you'll definitely leave with the job 100%. Now, for me, when I joined the Navy, my incentive was to travel 100%, because I'm from New York, you know what I mean? So from there, you know, I've been to like 25 different countries. So your incentive is to travel 100%. That is definitely the way to go. As far as like education goes, I've had the opportunity while I'm in the service, while I'm still active duty, to be able to pursue my higher education while I'm in active service. So, and they definitely give us a little bit of leeway when it comes to that, and have the Navy pay for it while you're, you know, like without even having to touch your GI Bill. So it's a pretty good deal.
Thank you very much. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome Staff Sergeant Cordell Monroe of the U.S. Army. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, sir. And if you could briefly share with us why students should join the U.S. Army.
I feel, first of all, how everybody doing? I apologize for my tardiness. My government computer don't want to act right. But so I would say it's an option, because so many times in the school systems, you're only successful if you go to college. But you know, it's more than one way to be successful in life. So it's just another way. It helps with your debt. It helps with, most importantly, getting you a skill set. So a lot of people, they'll go to school for geography in college. Oh, you want to be a teacher or something? No. What do you want to do? Computers. How does that help you get a computer job? So leadership, it teaches you to think outside the box. It helps you grow up, mature a little bit, I say. So that's a big thing where I think the military is a good thing.
Thank you so much, sir. Before we move into the question and answer portion of tonight's event, I would like to take a moment to briefly outline the academic and career planning process within Virginia Beach City Public Schools. School counselors met with rising 6th through 12th grade students to select courses for the 22 to 23 school year. This process involves reviewing what graduation requirements have been met and still need to be met for high school students, explaining options for next courses, and discussing post-secondary goals with each student to ensure course selections are aligned with those goals. Parent View provides parents and guardians the opportunity to view their students' course selections under the Course Request tab and track their progress toward graduation requirements under the Course History tab. Students, parents, and guardians have an opportunity to make changes to the course selections through the course verification process. Parents and guardians are encouraged and welcomed to participate in the academic and career planning process. If you have any questions about graduation requirements, your students' course selections, or would like to talk about your student's career plan, please contact your student's school counselor. All secondary students are encouraged to utilize the academic and career planning platform, Major Clarity, for career exploration. Major Clarity is a robust, student-centric academic and career planning platform that provides students the opportunity to take personality and interest assessments and explore career opportunities based on the results of these assessments. When students begin to explore careers on the platform, they are able to view interviews with professionals in the field and complete task simulations that they may encounter in that specific career field. Students can access Major Clarity through their ClassLink Launchpad in the Academic and Career Planning folder. If you have questions about Major Clarity, please contact your student's school counselor. Our military recruiters visit VBCPS high schools regularly to speak with students. Each high school counseling office has a list of recruiters that they work with. Many of our high schools provide opportunities for students to take the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery Assessment at school during the day. This assessment is also known as the ASVAB. This is a multiple aptitude battery that measures developed abilities and helps predict future academic and occupational success in the military. If you have any questions about the military recruiters serving your student's high school, or if the ASVAB is going to be offered during the school day this year, please contact your student's school counselor. Let's move to the questions for our panelists. The questions being asked tonight were submitted by community members. To ensure that our viewers learn about each branch of the military, I will ask each of our panelists to provide a brief response to each question. The first question, what are the specific requirements to enlist in your branch? Please include any height or weight requirements as well as minimum ASVAB scores. And also if you can share any suggestions on how to best prepare for the ASVAB. And we will start with Staff Sergeant Borowski.
All right, so based on the ASVAB, for us, it's a 36, but kind of with that, we don't really have a whole lot of jobs available when it kind of is in that 36 range. We can pretty much work with anybody, but we like to see kind of somewhat closer to maybe the 50s that start to open up a lot more jobs. When it comes to kind of height and weight requirements, there's a range. So all that's done up at MEPS where you do the medical processing, but it all will depend on how tall you are, and it'll kind of give you a range in your minimum to maximum weight. But when it kind of comes down to that, you can kind of talk to your local recruiter and kind of see if you fall in that category when it comes to height and weight.
Thank you. Staff Sergeant Monroe.
So as far as the testing is a 31, we do have special seasons, I like to call it, where it's called Cat 4, that if you score between a 17 to 30, for those who can't pass that, we're able to work with them. As far as height and weight, like he said, it's all at MEPS. You can be too tall, but you also can be too short. You can be too big, but you also can be too skinny. It all depends on your age and your height.
Thank you. Staff Sergeant Drake.
Yes, so with us, we kind of fall under the same umbrella as the full-time Army. So at 31 on the ASVAB, we also have the accessibility to the Cat 4s that they were talking about. The one thing that I do want to mention is for height and weight, it is a range and it does vary. However, don't let that discourage you, because even if you are over on your height and weight, we still do something to get a BMI. So we'll actually tape that individual a couple times, we'll get a percentage. And even if they are over on that weight, if they meet that percentage, that BMI, then they're still eligible to enlist as well. Also, you can be a US citizen, as well as individuals that do come to the United States that are considered a lawful permanent resident, as long as they have their permanent resident I-551 card, they also are eligible to enlist as well.
Thank you very much, sir. Petty Officer Chavez.
Yeah, our ASVAB score, you need a 36 or higher to get into the Coast Guard. I would say to the best prepare for the ASVAB, I would either get a book or do some, do apps online. I always recommend to people to study the AR, WK, PC, and the MK sections of the ASVAB, because that's what makes that's what gives you that 36 or higher score. And also, like with our weight and height standards, we always work with people. We don't care if you come to us 30 pounds over, we're gonna work with you until you get where you want to be. Or if you want to be in the Coast Guard, that's what we're here for.
Thank you so much. Do you have any specific books or apps that you recommend, sir?
usually at local libraries, they have those ASVAB for Dummy books. And then, I mean, these days you got so many apps online that you can look through. And I usually just people to get a book. That's usually what I do. That's what I did.
All right, thank you. I just didn't know if there was any specifics. Staff Sergeant Fowler?
Yes, ma'am. To answer your question in specifics, the AFQT Mastery app is the official ASVAB study app. Each branch has their own version, but if you want the closest to the official, the AFQT Mastery app is a great one to download. Also on YouTube, there are hour-long ASVAB, math knowledge, arithmetic, reasoning videos with someone and a whiteboard. You can take notes, and those have helped students in the past. Our height and weight standards, we do not use the BMI. However, we will work with you in our PT program. You could be 30, 40 pounds over. We'll work with you until you're back within standards, and then we'll start your process at that point.
Thank you very much. And Petty Officer Surtee.
Yes, ma'am. So as far as the ASVAB, the minimum is a 31. However, right now we're accepting people with AFQTs ranging between 26 and 30. As far as ASVAB prep goes, I do recommend a website. It's called Union Test Prep, and they have like a series of like practice tests. It has an 80% success rate with us, so it's not so bad. As far as like height and weight standards, it does vary. We do have a chart, and it does range, of course, as with every other branch. But we do have a little bit more leeway as far as like the Navy. So we do single side tape, right, which means that right around the hip bone, we'll tape you right around there. So like for females, it's a 35.5 inch. As long as you're at 35.5 inches or below, you're good. And for males, it's at 39. So as long as you're good with that, it's good, right? Now, as far as like other requirements, you do have to be between the ages of 17 and 39, and you do have to be a U.S. citizen with a legal permanent resident as well.
Thank you very much. What is the minimum length of service commitment for your specific branch?
So for Air Force, the minimum is 4 years. We basically offer two different contracts. It's either a 4 or a 6 year. There is kind of a caveat to the 6 year offering, and it's if you don't have any JROTC or any college credits, the 6 year contract kind of benefits you by after 20 weeks or completion of your technical school after basic training, you're able to put on E3 faster. So it's kind of a benefit of doing a 6 year contract over a 4 is you're able to get basically more money faster.
Thank you. Staff Sergeant Monroe.
For the Army, our minimum contract is 2 years, but I tried to steer people in a route of doing the 3 to 4 year contracts. But it's all dependent on your job, because some jobs, they'll allow you to come in and you might have to do 6 years. So it's job dependent, but we do have 2 year contracts.
Thank you. Staff Sergeant Drake.
Yes, especially since we're talking about high school students, seniors, they can actually enlist for a 3 year contract, and juniors would have to enlist for a 6 year contract just because of something that we have called the split train option. But keep in mind that with the 3 year enlistment for those seniors, that would also limit you on the educational benefits following up past that. So those would be our options for high school students.
Thank you. Petty Officer Chavez.
We have a 2 year, 4 year, and a 6 year enlistment. You know, coming straight out of high school, if you don't have any JROTC and you would do the 6 year enlistment, if you did the 6 year enlistment, the first day you went to boot camp, you would be an E3 and you would graduate as E3.
Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Fowler.
All right, so we have a 4 year contract. With certain MOSs that are more technical savvy, we will tack on a 5th year due to your MOS school being nearly a year long. For the reserve side of the house, our contract is 6 years.
Thank you. And Petty Officer Surtee.
Yes, ma'am. Kind of more or less the same with the other branches. So we have our minimum 4 years, And we also have a minute or 6-year contract, just depending on the more technical savvy side as well. But with the 6-year contract, it's kind of beneficial in a way because you will, once you graduate your technical schooling, just depending on what the technical schooling is, which is kind of ranges between 6 months to like possibly like a year or two, you can graduate as an E4.
Thank you. Next question. How long is boot camp or basic training, and can enlistees choose when they attend boot camp or basic training?
So for the Air Force, we have the shortest boot camp out of everybody, and ours right now is 7.5 weeks, but it's only in one location. So you obviously don't really have a choice, but it's in San Antonio, Texas, and it's for 7.5 weeks.
Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Monroe?
Our basic training is 9 weeks and 4 days, but you would actually be there a total of 10 weeks because you have to go through in processing. You have flexibility of when you can go, as far as like not the exact date, but as in a time frame. Like if you want to go spring, because we have so many different basic trainings, so we're flexible on that.
Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Drake?
Yes, so you definitely have that flexibility. However, that flexibility will come when you're doing the in-processing. You would talk to the guidance counselors that we have at MEPS, and that's something that you would work with them while you're building your contract. What I say, you have a wedding coming up, you can say, hey, I'd love to go as soon as possible. However, I have this wedding coming up, so I'd like to go after this, and then they'll look for the next opening after that. Now we do have three different sites for our basic training. One Fort Sill in Oklahoma, Fort Jackson in Georgia, and Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. And those sites, the way they regularly do it is it's based off of when, if you're going straight through, when your job school is open is when they'll try to get your basic training scheduled. That way you don't have a big huge gap in between the two. So they try to line that up, and whichever site is open that fits in that time frame is the one that you'd end up going to. But that's all in your contract, and you see that before you even leave MEPS. So you can see that in black and white right in front of you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Petty Officer Chavez?
Our basic training is 8 weeks. It's in Cape May, New Jersey. And yep, we leave just about every Tuesday, and the applicant chooses what boot camp date they want. We let them do whatever date they want.
Very good, sir. Staff Sergeant Fowler?
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 boot camps. However, with us being on the east side of the Mississippi, you will go to Parris Island, South Carolina for 13 weeks. If your parent or family member is a legacy Marine and they have gone through San Diego, California, then absolutely we will allow you to follow in your family's footsteps. When it comes to choosing your date with major circumstances, absolutely we'll work with you. However, we ship every Monday or nearly every Monday except for federal holidays. So most of it will be dictated for you, but we will work with major circumstances. You will know your date at MEPS. It will be on your contract before you even enlist.
Thank you. And Petty Officer Sartee?
Yes, ma'am. So it actually used to be 8 weeks, but they just recently changed it, I think a couple of months ago, to 10 weeks. And the reason that they changed it was because they wanted to establish more leadership courses within boot camp to kind of instill that leadership early on within sailors. The location of boot camp is, we only have one location, unfortunately. It's Great Lakes, Illinois. And yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you so much. Do enlistees have a choice on where they will be stationed after boot camp or basic training?
For Air Force, you have somewhat of choice. It's going to be based on a couple different things. First, it's going to be based on your job, because obviously depending on what job you choose and get picked up for is going to be dependent on what locations you go to. Some more specific jobs are only at certain locations. If you have more of like a general or admin job that's kind of available, medical job that's available at majority of your bases, then obviously you'll have a choice at more locations. The way we do it is when you're at basic training, you put together a dream sheet of locations. So I think you're able to put down 8 stateside and 8 overseas locations that you would like to go to. And then the Air Force kind of does its job on trying to match up with your preference on where you'll be after boot camp and tech school.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Monroe.
So after basic training, you don't have a choice because you'll be going to your job training. So wherever your job training is, if you was a medical person, you'll be going to San Antonio. If you're a computer person, you'll be going to Augusta. So you, as far as that, but as after, if you're active duty, after your job training, you can do what we call a wish list, where you put a certain number down and you go with that. But if you're reserves, you definitely get to pick, because as a reserves, you get to pick what kind of unit you want to go to. So reserves, you got a little bit more chance on where you go to versus active duty. Active duty is a wish list. Reserve, you pick the unit.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Drake.
Yes, I would say definitely 100%. And the reason I say that is because we have a list that comes out and it says all the jobs that we have open, and before they even go up to MEPS, the individuals that are enlisting with this organization actually get to look in the jobs they qualify for. They actually pick that specific job for that specific unit that they want to go into. And what we do is we kind of take that job off the shelf and reserve it just for them. So when they go to training, when they go up to MEPS and all that stuff, there's no surprise. They know exactly what unit they're going to, and they got the choice on that unit.
Thank you. Petty Officer Chavez.
When you would come visit your Coast Guard recruiter, we got certain districts within the United States that are guaranteed districts, meaning you would get it in your contract that you would be stationed in that area. We do have certain schools, we call them A schools, that you can get a guarantee with. But the good thing about the Coast Guard is when you go to your first station, you can, all 19 jobs that we have, you can work with all of them and get training on them. So, but yeah, you definitely have a good opportunity. Like me, I always wanted to be on the East Coast, and my whole career, I've been on the East Coast.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Fowler.
All right, so how it works for us is after 13 weeks of boot camp, you'll go to the Marine Combat Training, which is 29 days in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. You will learn the basics of holding a weapon, being able to patrol, speaking to each other, and just learn the basics of the infantry world in order to always be able to hold a rifle, which is the start of your continued rifle training throughout your career. At that point, then you will go to your schoolhouse. Upon your schoolhouse, they will ask for your wish list. You'll give your top 3 locations. Those in the top 10% with the highest GPA will get automatically where they would like to go. After that, it's based on needs of the Marine Corps. We try our best to work with you. However, there are some times where travel and adventure is going to come into play.
Very good. Thank you so much. And Petty Officer Surtee.
Yes, ma'am. So after boot camp, as with some of the other branches, you go straight to your technical schooling as well. And the location usually varies just within, like, based on the job, essentially. Now, during your technical schooling, usually like about halfway or a little bit before it ends is when you kind of also get a dream sheet, essentially. You'll usually have between like 3 to 5 choices. The people who score a lot higher during their entirety of the time at school do get first dibs usually, as far as that goes. And kind of more or less with the Marines, it's like after that is usually kind of like where they need you at that point.
Very good. Thank you so much. What types of jobs are available in your specific branch? And do any of these jobs require a specific ASVAB score?
So for Air Force wise, every job is kind of attached to a certain ASVAB score, and it's not necessarily your overall score. The only time we look at overall score is basically if you score enough to get in, so above the 36 to join. From there, we look at specific line areas, and each branch is kind of different with which line areas that they look for. So it's kind of one of those things when you take the ASVAB, we have an Excel sheet that has all of our jobs preloaded in there. So as soon as you take the ASVAB and you receive your scores, or you have us pull your scores, we're able to load those into the Excel and show you every job you qualify for based on score by itself. Because obviously it's a two-part thing. You also got to do the medical version. So it's kind of a mixture of what you score on the ASVAB and if there's anything medically that kind of knocks you out, whether it be vision, hearing, et cetera. We use those two together, and that's fully what you qualify for. But a lot of the jobs that we're seeing right now is we're starting to get like a big uptick in kind of your cybersecurity jobs, your intel jobs. We're starting to see a more uptick in that for the Air Force. And then obviously anything aircraft related, whether it be maintenance or anything to do with aircraft, we're going to always have those jobs just because that's the bulk of what we do.
Thank you, sir. Staff Sergeant Monroe?
Yes, like he said, so all jobs are picked off of line scores. In the Army, we got anywhere from infantry kicking down doors to being an LPN at a hospital. We have cybersecurity. It's a wide variety of jobs. We have plumber, electrician, you name it, we got it. So it's very flexible. It's just not what everybody usually think. Oh, the Army is only infantry. No, we got a wide variety of jobs. You just got to see what fits you. And by the line scores, we use the line scores to see what kind of fits you, your strong suit.
Very good, sir. Staff Sergeant Drake?
Yes, definitely. We have various jobs ranging, same thing, infantry, truck drivers, engineer units, and that's just locally here in Virginia Beach. The one thing that I did want to clarify is everyone keeps mentioning these line scores. For those of you who don't know what those are, the ASVAB score is a score that pretty much qualifies you to get into the military, and a lot of times for bonuses. The line scores are a bunch of different mini scores in different subjects that is what they look like. That's what they look at to see what you qualify for in the ASVAB. So all those little mini, teeny, tiny scores that qualify you for the jobs, the combination of all those is what gets you that overall ASVAB score.
Thank you, sir. Petty Officer Chavez?
Yes, ma'am. We have 19 different jobs in the Coast Guard. We got Marine Science Technician, Gunner's Mate, Information System Technician. That's like an IT, Intelligence Specialist, Electrician's Mate, Electronic Technician, Operations Specialist, Machinery Technician, Damage Controlman. We have Boatman's Mate, Aviation Maintenance Technician, Maritime Enforcement, Avionics Electronic Technician, Food Culinary Specialist, Storekeeper, Yeoman, Public Affairs Specialist, Aviation Survival Technician, and Health Service Technician. So if anybody interested in any of them, come visit us. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Staff Sergeant Fowler.
All right, so 9% of our jobs, we have 350 jobs, so it's hard to talk about the ASVAB score for all of them. The overall number, as long as you're passing that 31, that's all we care about. Those line scores is where it'll break down what you qualify for. 9% of our jobs are the combat related. We have the Intel IT community. We have your trades that you're going for, HVAC, electrician. We have the aviation field. And then we have 3 that are unique to us. So for the musicians in the group, we have the President's Own. You can audition for the band. If you can't get into the President's Own, you can at least audition for one of the 9 bands across the United States. Then we have the embassy duty. So for embassy duty, we're the only branch to guard the embassies around the world. So you can enter from that either after a couple of years in your service, or you can enter at entry level. And then we also have the special forces, Recon and MARSOC. Recon we hire from the civilian side, whereas MARSOC we will only hire from within when you're on your second contract, and we can monitor your leadership, your team building skills.
Very good, thank you. And Petty Officer Surtee.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we have a whole slew of of jobs, definitely 100%. So to start off with, I'll start with the Warrior Challenge Program, which includes SEAL, SWIC, which is like the Special Boat Operator, Air Rescue, Navy Diver, and Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Now, as far as like, I guess if you want to call it regular Navy at that point, we have even more broad spectrum as far as like engineering, and actually contrary to popular belief, and sorry, Air Force, aviation, we have actually a really huge aviation program that not a lot of people know about. We have the Supply Corps, we have combat systems, weapons, so the range is basically endless at that point. As far as like qualifying wise, usually I tell everyone to kind of focus on general science, arithmetic, reasoning, and mathematical knowledge, because those are like huge ones to hit as far as like if you want to qualify for like basically 80% of like Navy jobs.
Very good. Thank you so much, guys. Great information. In thinking about pay scales, what are enlistees typically paid, and are there any bonuses or incentives for specific jobs?
So this isn't going to be like, super branch specific. You can look up the most up-to-date pay chart. Just do a Google search on 2022 DoD military pay chart, and you can kind of see what's going to be the differences depending on what rank you come in. But again, you can see all that kind of on the pay chart. But for our bonuses wise, right now, we also kind of have like a special warfare, EOD, SEER. Those have bonuses right now, and they can range anywhere from, I want to say 10,000 up to closer to like 50, depending on what you go into. There's a couple linguist jobs right now that kind of have bonuses, but they're attached to a 6-year contract. So I know we talked about contracts in the beginning, but you would have to do a 6-year contract to get any kind of bonus, at least for us. And then there's, I think, a couple cyber jobs that have bonuses as well, but you need to have that A++ certification before you even come in. If not, that's okay. There's no bonus, but you would still be able to get that certification as you're in.
Thank you, sir. And Staff Sergeant Monroe.
Yep, like you said, all like paying coming in depends on your rank you join in. If you got a bachelor's degree, you're an E4, so that's gonna be different than whether you're an E1. As far as bonuses, I would tell the seniors are the highest targeted group. So if you're a senior, you'll get a bonus, more than likely. So it's ranging from 1,000 to 50,000. It just all depends on what job it is at this time.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And Staff Sergeant Drake.
Yes, definitely. With the Guard, we actually have a unique program where if you're a junior, if you're 17 and a junior, you definitely qualify. And while you're still in high school, you actually get paid for your drills well in high school. And that starts off anywhere, once again, based off of your rank, anywhere between $200 to $250 for working one weekend, a day and a half. We're right here in Virginia Beach at Camp Pendleton. Like I said, while you're still in high school. As far as bonuses, a lot of the bonuses require like 50 or above on the ASVAB. But we have right now 7 jobs that are doing like a $20,000 sign-on bonus. Cannon crew member, infantry, horizontal construction engineer, fire support specialist, motor transport operator, petroleum laboratory specialist, and a construction equipment repairer. Those are all jobs right now that we're offering that for.
Thank you. Petty Officer Chavez.
If you come in as a non-rate, that means, you don't have any job, you get a $2,000 bonus. And usually everybody gets that pretty much. If you want to do culinary specialist, we give a $20,000 bonus for that one. Electrician's mate, it's a $10,000 bonus. Electronic technician, it's a $15,000 bonus. Operations specialist, it's a $15,000 bonus. And we also guarantee with no bonuses, boatman's mate, information system technologist, and machinery technician. We can get you a guaranteed A school with those. But I always recommend people to just come in and get some hands-on training with all these different jobs before you choose your job, because we have a high retention rate because of that. Because like me, for example, I thought I wanted to be a machinery technician when I came in, and I ended up being a yogi. So I do desk work. And I never would have thought in a million years I'd have been doing desk work. But that's the good thing about the Coast Guard. You can come in and you don't have to pick your job right away.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Staff Sergeant Fowler.
Awesome. So for us, our bonuses will range and vary depending on the job and the amount of years that you serve. Some of them will have that 6-year obligation. But the best thing to do is sit down and ask us to see what's available on hand. They are first come, first serve.
Thank you. And Petty Officer Surtee.
Yes, ma'am. So as far as like pay grade, it does depend on like what pay grade you come in as far as pay goes. Now, when it comes to bonuses, it usually depends on the rates as well, or job, sorry. So usually we'll get a list from our commanding officer every month, usually at the beginning of every month. As far as like high quality jobs that are giving how this many bonuses out and this, that, and the fourth, right? So I think right now it's like IT is getting like a $15,000 bonus. HM, which is hospital corpsman, in the medical field, essentially is also getting a $15,000 bonus. I know one that's always like stuck is like nuclear power program. And that one's always been consistent. That's like a $38,000 enlistment bonus, but it does vary from month to month. And it usually, like all the incentives usually change within month to month. Last month, if you shipped out to boot camp between January and, between January and February, basically, you get like a $4,000 enlistment bonus. So it just all depends on that.
Very good. Thank you so much. Are there any medical conditions such as ADHD or asthma that will prevent students from enlisting in your branch? And are there any medical conditions that will impact job opportunities within your branch? U.S. Air Force.
So yes, so for us, it just all depends. I mean, obviously, we're not the medical professionals, so we're not going to tell you that you're going to be disqualified based on anything medically. That's MEPS's job when you go up there to medically process. If you're still currently taking ADHD or asthma medicine, even eczema, if you're currently taking medication for it, there is a time frame where you have to stop taking it. I think for eczema, I think you have to be off of it for like the steroid, off of it for like 60 days. Same thing with ADHD and asthma. It's like a time frame. There is a difference if you still currently have it or if it's like childhood, something that you had. There is a big difference, but the medical professionals are going to just look at your medical history, see what your notes and everything are, and then they're going to kind of approve, disapprove basically on a case-by-case scenario. As it comes to jobs, that's all done up at MEPS again, but that's going to be where, say you have like air traffic control and you have no depth perception. If you have no depth perception, you're probably not going to get a fly-in job. You're probably not going to need any job. So there are certain instances where, not having depth perception, not having a certain corrected, uncorrected vision, even if there's something wonky going on with like your hearing, it could eliminate you from other jobs. But we can kind of have that conversation on like a case-by-case scenario because not everybody's going to fall in the same category.
Thank you so much. U.S. Army?
Yes, same like he said. We as recruiters, we're not allowed to say, oh, you're disqualified. Our doctors at MEPS, they're the only ones who can qualify you or disqualify you. ADHD, asthma, those are issues, but like I said, depending on how long you've been off the medication or anything, you may qualify for a waiver. Yes, certain jobs you have, if you want to be special forces, you can't have nothing wrong with you. But if you want to be, a desk job, they might say, okay, well, you had this problem, but we'll give you a waiver for that. It just all depends. But I would say get with your local recruiter. And then after y'all go for the physical, you can go sit down and hash that out.
Thank you so much. Army National Guard?
Yes. Yes and no, to be honest. So what we do is, yes, we're not medical professionals, we're recruiters and career counselors, but we do have a medical regulation that we do follow. And if some of them that are in there are disqualifying there are still stipulations in there. So depending on, once again, how long you've been off the medication, how much time. So like ADHD, for example, that in the regulation is a disqualifier. However, if you get certain documents from the school, if they've been off of it for like 24 months, if they get medical documentation from their doctor, and all that lines up, then they still would meet the requirement that they could enlist because they've met all the stipulations according to the regulation, and they would be clear to continue the process. That would go up to MEPS, and then the MEPS doctors would make the determination from there.
Very good. Thank you. Petty Officer or U.S. Coast Guard.
If you are colorblind, there's only certain jobs that you can do. But other than that, everything else is pretty consistent with what everybody else been saying. You know, I've had some of the same stuff. You know, it's just according on what the doctor, you know, sees, the Coast Guard doctor, for our medical waivers.
Thank you so much. And U.S. Marine Corps.
I love this question. So yes, we're not medical professionals, and the medical professionals at MEPS are limited on what they can and cannot approve. They only have so much authority. There is a higher level that we utilize quite frequently in the Marine Corps, and we call that the BUMED. And the Chief of Medicine, who is a doctor in the Navy, will review that case-by-case situation and your individual case. So at that point, if you received an approval from that individual, that does not stop you from anything. I have a lot of students that ask me, well, what jobs does this disqualify me from? It's a blanket, you are approved to be in the Marine Corps. I know someone that served in MARSOC for 10 years after an open heart surgery. I know someone that's been on Marine Corps, the Marine One aircraft after receiving a similar waiver. So it doesn't matter what your waiver is needed for. Once you're approved, you can apply for any job. I will agree with the Coast Guard. The only job that we cannot give you is if you're colorblind. There's just certain things that that are disqualifying to you, and that would be the only stipulation.
Very good. Thank you so much. And the U.S. Navy.
Yes, ma'am. Kind of the same with other branches. I am just but a lonely recruiter. I can't really tell them exactly what they qualify for or not. Typically we do have them, they do have like ADHD or asthma or anything like that, they need to be medically cleared by their PCM, so like their primary care manager, right? So their doctor. They have to be medically cleared usually. Now with ADHD, they have to be off the medication at least 1 to 2 years. And show the paperwork, basically provide the paperwork for that. Now for asthma, typically we'll have the applicant do like a pulmonary function test to kind of determine like, hey, you know, everything's good to go, that sort of thing. And we will submit that to the chief medical officer, which is our Navy doctor up at MEPS, right? And usually they're the determining factor, whether like yay or nay, that's good to go. Now, as far as everything else, like what disqualifies you for a job, like with the other branches is other contributing factors, like if you're colorblind or if you have no depth perception, obviously you can't do certain jobs. You can't do like electrical jobs, or you can't do like aviation jobs just because of that. So yes, while you can be like mentally qualified for something, I don't typically tell anybody they're qualified for anything until they do their physical.
Great information. Thank you so much. Can you tell us about the GI Bill and how it works, starting with the Air Force?
Raj, I can tell you a little bit about the GI Bill. I currently use my post 9/11 GI Bill for my master's degree right now. I know you have to serve X amount of time to be able to receive full benefits, which I believe is 3 years to have 36 months of eligibility on it. You don't have to use it while you're in. That was just the easiest way for me to pay for my master's degree. A lot of people utilize it when they get out, because it gives you a housing money while you go to school. So it'll pay for your school. It also give you a housing allowance while you're out to kind of utilize to where maybe you can benefit and not have to work as much or work part-time. But the way it works for me right now while I'm still in is tuition assistance only covers about $1,000 of each class right now. and the post 9/11 kicks in and covers the other 4,200 for each class. So it definitely benefits me while I'm in. And then whatever is left over that I don't use, I'm able to transfer to my daughter, and then she can kind of have some of her school paid for like that. So it is transferable also.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And U.S. Army?
Yep, like he said again, you get a housing allowance. I think that's a huge thing, especially when you're a kid in college and you have aspirations of living off campus. That'll help you with some of your rent costs. Yeah, I mean, he covered it all, really. It's no difference. We all use the same GI Bill.
Okay. Then let me pose it this way. Does anyone want to add anything about the GI Bill? Oh, yes. Okay, go ahead.
I got
So-
you. I got you.
So.
Oh,
National Guard, go ahead. We'll stick
Sorry
with the order.
Okay, with the Guard, we actually use the Chapter 1606 Select Reserve on GI Bill, which right now is $407 per month. And that the GI Bill, so the difference is the GI Bill is money that goes directly to that individual, opposed to the tuition assistance, which goes directly to the institution. You get a 50 better on the ASAP, you get an additional 200 on that as well. And they've actually made a new thing that has come out where you can actually, from what I understand, you can combine the GI Bill, federal TA, as well as state. So that's all I got.
It's good stuff. Thank you so much. Coast Guard, do you have anything you want to add?
I mean, usually nobody in, we usually don't use the post 9/11 GI Bill until you get out. Because in the Coast Guard, we have something called mutual assistance, and it usually covers about 4 to 5 classes per year. So if you want to, do your education like that, you can. And like me personally, I transferred mine to my son. So that's something you can do if you have a family. You can transfer it to your spouse, or you can transfer it to your dependents.
Very good. And Marines?
I just want to add on to what the Air Force was saying about tuition assistance. I'm currently in my master's as well. I'm utilizing that to cover the bill because I want to save my GI Bill for my children. So it's not talked about as much, and that's a program where they're consistently paying you as long as you keep a C average or above for each class. You're able to enroll in up to two classes per 8-week session. So you're still a part-time student by the end of the 16 weeks. You're still eligible for the Dean's List. You're still eligible for all the academic accolades that your university will provide. So it's a great program to use. I've been using it the last 10 years, and each branch will talk about their specific programs.
Thank you. And the Navy?
Well, ma'am, I think they covered everything actually, so kind of took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry. So great information, guys. Thank you so much. And we are on to our last question of the evening. And the last question is, what is the best piece of advice that you have for students who want to enlist in the military after graduating from high school? Air Force?
I would say just make a decision that best suits you. I know we kind of all talked about everybody's situation is going to be different, but I would say spend some time, talk to all the different branches, see what everybody has to offer. In some way, shape, and form, a lot of the jobs are going to kind of be intertwined, but pick a branch that's going to be suited best for you. Everybody gets paid the same. All the DoD benefits are the same. We kind of already talked about that, but you got to make the best decision for you. So I would say talk to all the recruiters, talk to all the different branches, see what they have to offer.
Excellent advice. Army?
Yep, I would say if your plans are to enlist after high school, you might as well enlist now. And the reason I say that is because your stock is no longer going to be higher always when you're a senior in high school than rather being a graduate. So I would say if this is something you want to do, like you said, talk to all the branches, get all the information, talk to your JRTC instructors. If your school don't have it, talk to one of your buddies who got a JRTC instructor and speak with them. But you're going to get more incentives by joining while you're in school than after school because you're the highest target market. So
More great advice. And the Army National Guard.
I think we circle around to kind of what we were just talking about in the beginning. Honestly, don't think any one service is better than any other service. I like kind of think of it as one big puzzle, and each individual branch, as you saw during this presentation, each individual branch is its own individual puzzle piece. And if you're missing one puzzle piece, then you don't have a complete picture. So going back to what people were saying before, definitely talk to all the branches, get the information, and figure out, seriously sit down and figure out what you're trying to achieve for your goals, and what puzzle piece best fits you and what you're trying to achieve.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And the Coast Guard.
Well, the best piece of advice I could give you is join right out of high school, because between 18 and 38, it comes a lot faster than you think. I'm 37 years old, and I feel like I was just sitting in your shoes. And another piece of advice I would give you, if you got a recruiter calling you all the time, trying to talk you into stuff, don't fall for it. And that's for all branches, including the Coast Guard.
Thank you, sir. And U.S. Marine Corps.
4 years of service, which is the minimum, aside from the Army, which is 2, is a drop in the bucket of the journey, the life you're about to embark on. It's a long time to 65 in retirement. So if you can see yourself serving your country, being patriotic, trying to achieve those goals in your life, and we can come alongside and assist you in reaching those goals, then I would suggest you do it sooner rather than later. I've never heard of someone saying, oh, I wish I would have waited. I wish I would have joined a few years later. Like myself, I was a junior in college, and I will forever be the loudest one to say, I really wish I would have just started sooner, like my brother, because I received the same things out of life, but I would have been more well-rounded and prepared for some of the curves that life throws you, and better prepared for that ultimately that profession that I'm desiring and I'm achieving.
Great advice. And U.S. Navy.
I'd say as far as that, kind of more or less with what Staff Sergeant Fowler was kind of going with, like 4 years goes by in a blink of an eye, whether you want to make this a career or not. The military as a whole gives you an opportunity to become independent, to become your own person, to be, to have your finances taken care of, to mature, to grow up, essentially. Whether you want to make this a career or not, I'd say another piece of advice is I take advantage of every avenue that the military does give you, as far as like apprenticeship programs, tuition assistance, things of that nature. Take advantage of everything.
Thank you so much. That was phenomenal advice, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. That really was great information about the different branches and how to be best prepared to enlist in the military after high school. I would like to thank our facilitator, Annie Chowns, and all of the military representatives for their time, expertise, and thoughtful responses. I would also like to thank the VBCPS community for taking the time to be here with us virtually this evening. As a reminder, these sessions are recorded and will be available on bbschools.com. Thank you so much and have a great night.